Did you ever wish you could remove your memories from your memory like stains on an old garment because they were so overwhelming? I have, and because of that emotion, I came into a terrifying tale that will make you consider the cost of forgetting and the weight we are prepared to pay for it. Let me tell you about the laundromat of oblivion, a place where dreams are washed with tears and dried in the sun of hope. I may have discovered it by accident, or maybe destiny led me there. I'm a narrative, and my name is Sophia. My work has led me to strange locations and met incredible people, but nothing compares to what I experienced in the laundry of oblivion. Seeker is a collector of stories that are hidden in the folds of everyday life. I was doing study on immigrant life. On the border, I was staying in a modest area where every face mirrored the fight for a brighter future, and every house exhaled broken aspirations in search of stories worth telling. I first learned about Elena, the laundry's owner there. She was a mystery woman who was the subject of weird rumors. According to certain rumors, Elena had a gift that allowed her to clean not just garments, but also the unpleasant memories that held on to them. She was seen by some as a witch, a sorceress who worked with evil spirits. Elena was actually an undocumented immigrant, just like many of the others in the area who had fled crime and suffering to this nation. I made the decision to go to the laundromat one day. With crumbling walls and ancient washing machines that appeared to moan with every cycle, the facility was small and unassuming. Elena smiled warmly at me, but there was a lot of grief in her eyes. She was a middle-aged woman, her hands toughened from hard work, her gray hair put in a bun. My father had died a few years before, and I gave her an old jacket that had belonged to him. I treasured the outfit, but it also brought up memories of how painful his loss had been. Elena handled the jacket with care, as though it were a holy item. She assured me that the jacket will be ready the following day and asked me to return the following day. I went back to the laundry. The jacket was perfect, as if no time had touched it. But what surprised me the most was the sensation I got when I touched it. It seemed as though the burden of melancholy had diminished, and my father's memories had grown more pleasant and less agonizing. I had no idea what was going on. How could my feelings be so deeply affected by something as simple as a wash? When I asked Elena what her gift's secret was, she gave me a mysterious look and shared her story with me. When she washed the clothes of an elderly woman who had lost her son in the war, she told me that she had accidentally discovered her talent. The woman had told her story through tears, and Elena felt a strong connection to her suffering. She felt as though the old woman's pain seeped into her hands and that the garment absorbed her sadness. Ever since, Elena has continued to wash the clothes of people who have experienced trauma, losses, injustices, and other hardships. She gradually developed into a counselor and therapist who listened to her clients' tales and provided them with short-term pain relief. The neighborhood immediately became aware of Elena's skill, and immigrants, their garments smeared with resentful memories, resorted to her for solace. Men who had been tortured in their home countries, women who had lost their children while traveling through the desert. All of the women who had experienced domestic abuse sought oblivion in Elena's care, and Elena provided them with assistance without expecting anything in return. No one realized that Elena's gift came at a very great cost, yet she diligently cleaned their clothes, patiently listened to their stories, and gave them words of encouragement. Elena absorbed the anguish into her own psyche each time she cleaned a clothing that was laden with it. Her personal experience was shaped by her customers' traumas, memories, and nightmares. She was able to regulate it at first, distinguishing her own memories from other people's. But as time went on, the distinction grew more hazy. Elena started seeing images that weren't hers, hearing voices in her brain, and experiencing recurrent nightmares. She experienced her clients' traumas again, feeling their misery, terror, and despair. Her sanity was eroding. Her mind was disintegrating. Elena confided in me one day that she was about to pass out. She told me that her recollections of other people had taken over her head and that she was unable to tell the difference between truth and imagination. She informed me that she had started to envision the terrible outcomes of every immigrant she knew. Every death, every deportation, and every family split. She was now a prophet of suffering and a seer of agony. I made an effort to assist her. I brought her to a medical facility. No one could comprehend what was happening to her. So I sought out psychological assistance. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia by the physicians, and they gave her medication, but it didn't help. Elena was still suffering and witnessing the atrocities that plagued her neighborhood. Elena vanished one day. Some claim she disappeared and went back to her home country in search of a peaceful place to live, while others think she committed herself because she couldn't handle the burden of other people's memories. I would much rather believe that she managed to overcome her pain and shed the weight she was carrying. After being abandoned, Oblivion's clothes came to represent both sacrifice and insanity. The thought of passing in front of it always makes me shiver. I question whether or not oblivion is a good thing or a trap that keeps us from growing from our errors. I question if it is just for one person to bear the suffering of so many others, and I wonder what would have happened to Elena if she had been able to discover the serenity she so desperately sought. Perhaps there is a comparable laundromat where memories are cleaned and pain is alleviated somewhere in the world. The truth is that oblivion is not the answer, even though Elena's gift may have been transferred to another immigrant who is prepared to put others' needs ahead of her own. The true road to recovery is confronting our traumas, growing from them, and creating a better future. Although we cannot change the past, we can use it to our advantage by turning it into a source of knowledge and courage. What do you think too? Is oblivion a good choice in your opinion? Would you be prepared to pay to have your traumatic memories erased? Tell me what you think. Please let me know what you think of this story, and if you enjoy it, please remember to like it. Subscribe to my channel and click the bell to ensure you don't miss any more of my scary tales. The Laundry of Oblivion teaches us that oblivion can be a dangerous illusion, a way to avoid reality that can have devastating consequences. So the next time you feel the temptation to erase a painful memory, remember Elena's story and consider whether you are really willing to pay the price for oblivion. Yes, I say goodbye until next time, and may you rest if you can. The next story. Ever pondered your course of action in the event that an unfamiliar menace started stalking you via your phone? Imagine discovering one day that an unknown number has begun sending you eerie messages that foretell your friends' deaths as you are going through your WhatsApp conversations. A group of pals in a city similar to yours experienced this terrifying situation. It all started on a typical evening when 5 friends made the decision to start a chat group in order to communicate, exchange stories, and laugh at the commonplace situations that only friends can relate to. But it didn't take long for what had been a place of jokes and joy to become the scene of a horror. The first message, a brief but unsettling text, came as a surprise. Remember to pack umbrellas for tonight. At first they believed it was a cruel prank, but the truth came to light when one of them refused to see dawn that very night. On his way home, Daniel was involved in a tragic accident. 3 days later, the group received a second message. The last person to laugh will be the first to fall. The atmosphere became tight this time. Nobody ventured to interpret those foreboding statements. Every communication felt like a dreadful prophecy, and what had once been a place of joy became a battlefield of fear. They began to feel uncertain, and their laughing turned into anxiety. Whispers, day after day, the messages kept coming in, each one more sinister than the last. The members started to notice a pattern, and despite their best efforts to stick together and help one another, fear began to grow inside of them as strange things started happening in their lives. On the day they received the message, the clock started to tick off one of their friends. After dying on the street, Sophia was brought to the hospital next to her. As the predictions came true, one after another, her phone kept vibrating with a new notification, yet another message, from that mysterious number that seemed to know more about them than their pals could have ever imagined. The friends started to take this situation seriously. They pondered whether someone was observing them or if a sinister power was manipulating them. They began to look into the number's origin, but as their concern increased, each attempt left them feeling more confused and powerless. Although they made the decision to cease discussing the messages among themselves, worry had already crept into their thoughts and emotions. Their everyday existence became a terrible game of survival, and they began to isolate themselves from one another out of fear of what lay ahead. The mystery that plagued the group of friends remained unsolved as the days stretched into weeks. The group's most cynical member, Juan, resolved one night to face their concerns with a bravery he didn't feel. To find out where the number came from, he proposed that they meet at Sophia's residence. It was their last hope, and at the same time, their last means of ending this mob game that had kept them bound to an uncertain future. With a few beers and a little bravery, they went to her house. But the tension was high as they started talking about their experiences over the previous few days. It seemed as though each of them was going to divulge a sinister secret when Juan's tense laughter suddenly stopped when he got a notification on his phone. The message was tensed by everyone. When they looked about, they saw that night had arrived. The lights were flickering, strangely. The darkness was growing, and the cold wind outside appeared to be whispering their names. At that moment, they realized they were no longer safe. Without thinking, they all locked eyes, wondering if they had the strength to face the truth concealed behind this unnerving phenomenon. They decided to act, and with renewed resolve, they agreed to meet at the one location that could be crucial for their survival, an old library that held documents and records of strange occurrences in the city. They needed answers, and maybe they could find a way to put an end to this nightmare. As they arrived at the building, a somber atmosphere surrounded them, and they were filled with fear upon seeing darkness. When you first entered the area, the air felt dense, as though the room itself were alive and observing. While looking through the books, they came upon an old journal that related stories of a group of friends who had been cursed. According to the tale, a number of them had been cursed by a malevolent ghost that grew stronger with each predicted death. As a wave of terror swept through their bodies, they realized that they too had become ensnared in that cycle, and that, in order to break the curse before it was too late, they had to face the spirit that haunted them and challenge it to reveal who it really was. With their hearts pounding and fear evident in the air, they decided they had to do it together in that dark place and made a pact promising not to let fear separate them. They ended their search with a sense of resolve, sitting in a circle and starting to invoke the spirit, asking it to manifest itself. Just as the search came to a head, a storm broke out outside, the winds howled and the lights started to flicker. They heard a whisper that said, "Friendship is an illusion, a game of shadows that souls play." Although fear tried to take over, they knew they had to remain united and shouted with all their strength that they were not afraid of the spirit, that their friendship was real, and that the curse would not have control over them. Suddenly, a bright light filled the library, and the air became heavy in a different way, as if the spirit was fighting to emerge. But before it could, a chilling laugh echoed, and the wind stopped. That's when they realized they had taken control of their destiny. The group of friends had managed to break free from the fear that had held them captive, and the unknown number stopped sending messages at that very moment. The dawn's warmth permeated. They embraced, laughing through tears of relief, knowing that they had confronted their biggest worries and come out stronger as a new day dawned for them through the windows. Knowing that they had written a chapter in their life together that they would never forget, they now only grin and exchange knowing looks whenever someone questions them about what happened. If you ever find yourself in a similar circumstance, keep in mind that friendship is the actual source of strength and that you can overcome any adversity with one another. Please remember to like and comment if you like this story, and let me know what you think. Until the next time, subscribe for more stories that will make you wonder about reality and give you chills. Because the unknown frequently lurks in the shadows, always keep the light on.